right, well, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, I am going to be talking about understanding conflict resolution because it formed part of a competency that I needed to do for my dietitian licensing. Every year I have to choose two competencies, and I'll show you what it was. But it's something that I actually have to have everything completed by the end of this month. And one of my activities was to present to you today on understanding conflict resolution. Now, my earliest teaching on conflict and conflict resolution came from one of my first teachers, my dad. He said, Melanie, even if there were only two people left on this earth, there will be somebody always trying to lead the other, and there will be differences of opinion. In other words, there will be always conflict. And I've had instances when I handle conflict very well, and then there's other times where I didn't handle it too well. And I feel learning about conflict and managing conflict is a lifelong skill that I can continue to learn. So as I said, this is the competency that I had to choose for my license, and it comes due this month. I chose it last year, and it's just effectively manage conflict with clients and team members. And so I had a SMART goal that you see in the blue box by March 31st. So in the next 11 days, I will learn all of this wonderful ideas about conflict, how to put these wonderful skills in my toolbox for managing conflict with clients and team members, wherever I happen to be working with. It is also really important why I chose the competency, because I'm in an organization that used to be part of Alberta Health Services, and little by little, the big AHS was split into smaller entities, and I'm in the Acute Care Alberta entity of that bigger organization. And when there's change going from the current state or the original state going to the ideal or new state, there's going to be conflict along the way because it challenges people's ideas of how things should be to getting prepared for the new ideal. So today I'm going to talk about what is conflict and what the causes of conflict are, because it definitely does take at least two people. And also talk about constructive versus unconstructive conflict, how to manage it, and then I will conclude in this short presentation. So conflict is a situation in which two or more people or groups have differences of opinion around goals, interests, values, and perceptions. It is a normal part of human interaction, and it can occur in workplaces, families, friendships, and organizations, including Toastmasters International, because as you know, we are also transitioning to a new district. There are many causes of conflict, but I have a few that are on the slide that I'll mention. And the top one of causing conflict is poor communication, whether it be people having different ways of communicating, maybe not really hearing correctly, or it could be people having different values or beliefs. So one has a different perspective to the other one on how to approach a certain process or problem. It could be competition for resources, whether it be for time, money, praise, etc. Personality. So you might have personality differences on just how people might be considered to be really extroverted versus introverted, and there could be clashes in just how to communicate with each other, how to approach a problem. Or maybe just like when there's a lot of change, such as what I've experienced, and others do as well too in their organizations and what we're going to experience, there can be ambiguity in terms of, well, what do I do now? What's appropriate? What's my responsibilities now? And also too, unmet expectations, especially if you're part of a team and you understood that that person was going to do a certain part of a project, but they don't do that, then that unmet expectation can cause conflict. Now, however, not all conflict, you don't want to put morality with it, because there can be constructive conflict, which can really actually help with getting some really great results as a result of it. So when I talk about constructive conflict, it's where individuals will focus on ideas and not their personalities. There's respectful communication. There's a lot of listening and collaboration, which overall could lead to even better solutions or improvements from the original ideas or even changing status quo. And also, too, it helps to foster or strengthen relationships when conflict is handled constructively versus non-constructive conflict, which I think a lot of people might shy away from conflict because I think that's what a lot of people think about, is that where there's a lot of winning at all costs, having personal blame, really attacking a person's personality. There could be emotional escalation where there's a lot of resentment and really no real resolution, which could really end up causing hostility and damaging relationships. So, what I learned going through my competency and taking webinars and talking to my mentors and learning using the speech project is that the really important thing before you start to manage a conflict is really learning about myself. And it's doing a lot of self reflection on not only my leadership style, but how do I show up as a team member and how do I communicate? Learning about, well, maybe how I communicate might not be something or how somebody else might communicate, and learning how to change that to make it fit for when I'm dealing with a potential conflict or even just a conversation in general. I also learned about my triggers, so my self regulation. So, what is triggering me, or is it? And how am I feeling today? Am I being the best person going into a conversation that could be potentially causing conflict? Or perhaps maybe saying, how about we just rest and we'll talk about it in a few hours? So, just learning a little bit about that. As well, I've learned, just like I shared with you, what are the sources of conflict. So, I am a little bit more aware and how to manage it. Managing, meaning, besides reflecting on myself, is talking to the individual or group with curiosity, trying to understand their point of view, like really listening instead of being willing to say the next thing once there's a breath in the individual while they're talking. So really looking at ways of where everybody can win. Doesn't mean that I walk away with everything that I want, but that give and takes that everybody is generally happy with the outcome and that the relationships are preserved. And as well, in the time of change, sometimes when people are resistant to change, it could be seen as another big destructive or non-constructive conflict. But it's also learning how to reframe it because resistance could be giving some clues on how to do change a little bit differently to make it more effective for everybody around. So really looking at it in a positive way. So in conclusion, I spoke about the different causes of conflict, talked about how we don't want to put morality on conflict because it is a way of handling it constructively versus non-constructively. And learned about different ways of managing the conflict, including self-reflection about myself and how I show up, and also making sure that I listen and approach differences of opinion with curiosity and trying to find a way of making things work for both parties. And seeing that constructive conflict can provide opportunities for growth and creative solutions. Because without conflict, we may miss great advancements if we're always at the status quo and trying to avoid having conflict with each other. So, as a call of action for moving forward, I would say that for all of us, we should want to be handling conflict and seeing it differently as well. We want to listen with empathy, we want to speak with respect, and then seek to turn every conflict into a bridge rather than a barrier.